Okay. We're just looking at the participants and attendees that we have. So, hello everybody. Welcome to our webinar. As you can see, he's here. The 5-star advantage. Turn customers' love into revenue growth. My name is Diana, and I'm going to be your host for today's webinar. So, we wanted to say thank you for joining us. We know that you guys are so busy, so thank you for taking the time to join us on this important webinar on transforming feedback into revenue. So whether you're here, probably you want to attract new clients. Who doesn't want that? Or improve your online reputation, or simply automate your review collection process. And yes, guys, you can do that. You are in the right place. So over the next hour, we'll be diving deep into strategies, and I'm not going to talk a lot about that because our speaker will do that. And there will be a special bonus for those who will be sticking around until the end of the webinar. All right. So without any further ado, I'm thrilled to introduce our speaker for today. You're already seeing him in your screen right now, Stephen Platty. Stephen is Lojo Marketing's business development manager, and he brings a wealth of experience to the table. He's been immersed in the world of sales and marketing for over 20 years, helping countless businesses, both small and large, to thrive in the digital space. Okay, so while I am doing this introduction about Steven, we also would want to hear, where are you guys connecting with us from? So you are we've opened the chat box so that everybody can type. So make sure to type where you are from. Right now I'm in the Philippines. I live in the future because it's already April 17 for me. Okay, so let's see, where are you guys connecting from? So use the chat box. Okay, so while we're waiting for those responses, we let's go back to Steven. Okay, Steven has a unique perspective, having previously worked at a company where he was responsible for sales and marketing, traveling extensively and interacting with thousands of businesses. Okay, so he also knows firsthand what it takes to grow a client's market share and build lasting relationships. We want to learn from that person. And on a personal note, Steven is happily married with how many kids? 5 kids, which we can only imagine makes him so busy, incredibly busy. Okay. His dedication and passion for helping businesses succeed, it's really, truly inspiring. Okay, so we're so happy to have Steven here. But before I pass it on to Steven, let's take a look. So we have Tennessee, we have California. Our speaker, Steven himself, is from Nashville. Wow, we have Mammoth, California, USA. So it's really interesting. Okay, so I know you guys are excited to learn. So now, Stephen, take it away.
Okay, I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for the kind introduction, Deanna. All right, so she already mentioned a little bit about the background that I have, and it's working with small businesses over the past 20 years and helping them grow. So I'm excited to share with you guys today how we're gonna go through a little transformative training session. And yeah, the objective here is to dive deep into something that's going to change the course of your business, which is your online reputation. So that's going to be the main focus of what we're talking about. Um, and now, as Deanna mentioned, I know you guys are busy and we really appreciate you taking the time in order to be here. So I promise to make the time count that we're going to have together. You're going to discover a system today that we're going to talk about taking happy customers and turning them into your most powerful marketing asset. And as a result of that, that's going to lead to more revenue. And all without having to chase after those, through hours of time spent. All right. So I want you to think about that. What if you could automate your review collection process? What would that look like? And then what if you could build that steady stream of authentic reviews that lead to attracting new customers? Well, that's what I mentioned. That's what we're going to be talking about. So I'm sure you've heard of the brand Review Llama. That's what we're going to be discussing today in some measure. So Review Llama, to give you a little bit of background, it's a software that's part of it's the online reputation side of a software that's a more comprehensive CRM and marketing software that is called Growth Genie 360. All right. So, and this software is part of that proven process that's going to lead to better online reputation. All right. So we're going to dive into it. I will say during our time together, um, you're going to see firsthand how those proven techniques are going to help you create that automated collection process. And this isn't just some theory, this is a practical working system. And that's even if you don't have a technical background, or maybe you're too busy to manually do some of those follow-ups, or if you're currently struggling with negative reviews, or you're starting to build that online presence, no matter where that situation is, it's going to be able to help. So we'll break down what you're going to learn. So first, we're going to learn on how to build a steady stream of authentic reviews. And these aren't just any type of reviews. These are the kind that actually convince a customer to choose you as a company. Next, we're going to show you how to automate that entire process. And just imagine having a system that works to collect reviews while you focus on running your business. And then we'll learn how to take those satisfied customers and turn them into vocal advocates that promote your business. We'll cover strategies on how to protect and enhance your online reputation, including how to handle any negative reviews that might come your way. And finally, you'll see how to build instant trust with potential customers before they even contact you. And, this is a complete system that works with any type of business. And as I mentioned, whether you're starting out or maybe you've been established for years, so it doesn't make too much difference. Now, before we dive into it, I want to give you a sense of what our time together should look like. And I want to give you the maximum value for this time. And so along with Diana and myself, talking and going over some things, I want you to ask some questions. I'm encouraging you to get involved. So go ahead and use the chat. My goal here is I want this to be as interactive as possible. All right. And so if you haven't already, maybe find that quiet space, close the door, and grab a notebook, because you're going to want to be able to capture some of the insights of the things that we're going to go over. All right. And I know that seems like small stuff, but it can make a big difference. So in fact, I'm going to go close the door. 2 seconds.
Okay, so we're waiting for Steven to come back. You talked about you
There we
want
go.
participation in the chat, so we've got one from Rich. I think you will also be able to cover this addressing fake reviews, because
Yep.
earlier you gave a breakdown of the things that need to be that you will be covering. So there's somebody who raised addressing fake reviews in our chat box.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, we'll put that down during the Q&A session. We'll be talking a little bit about fake reviews or just negative reviews in general, but we can talk specifically about fake ones when we get to the question and answer on how to go over those. Okay. All right. And as Diana mentioned, there is going to be a prize. So they're not a prize, but it's a special offer. It's something we haven't done before. And it's meant to specifically designed to help you implement all the things that we're going to be talking about. And so we'll give you the details on that at the end of our session. And just know that it's worth waiting for. So you guys will be pleasantly surprised. All right. So first, we're going to do a check-in. We're going to make sure that you guys are in the right place, that everybody here is here for a particular reason. I'm going to give you 3 reasons, and if you can, see which one resonates the most with you, and then you can enter that into the chat. So reason number 1, you're struggling to attract new clients. And that's probably because, potential customers, they don't automatically trust a business they've never worked with before. So you need to build more trust with those prospects, and you're looking to do that, but you don't really have the social proof to help you out. Reason number two, you have happy customers, but you don't have a systematic process in order to get their feedback. And maybe you've tried, manually chasing after those clients and having reviews rarely materialize. Or maybe you're frustrated with the time-consuming process that it takes to ask for reviews. That would be number two. Reason number three is your online reputation doesn't really reflect the quality of the business. So maybe you have a few reviews, you only have like two or three, or maybe you have ones from unhappy clients, and you know that your service is better than what that online, presence reflects. So you got those three reasons. Maybe put in the chat which one, like I said, might resonate the most with you.
We've got a 3 in the
Okay.
chat.
All right. And see, I think that it doesn't really matter where you're at in that process. If there's, if everybody's at a 3 or if everybody's at a 2, doesn't matter, because we're going to be able to take care of those issues, and you are in the right place to learn about how to overcome those challenges. Okay. All right. So we now have some things that we want to read. So this is some interesting statistics, okay? And these are going to help us understand why reviews matter. So we have a couple statistics here of first one, nearly 95% of consumers read online reviews before making a purchase, okay? 68% of consumers form an opinion after reading between 1 and 6 online reviews. And then we have 93% of consumers agree that their purchasing decision depends on reviews from other people. Okay. Those are some pretty high numbers. But what are your guys' thoughts? In looking at that, at those stats, does anything pop out at you? Okay.
Okay. So, of course, the numbers that are more than 90 is already kind of like, wow, that's kind of a big number.
Yeah.
But another thing about that is if we put ourselves in, because all of us are consumers here, right? So as business owners, we also sometimes have to think about us as a consumer. So, most of the time, personally, I'm talking about myself. Before I buy something, I have to, okay, what do people say about this? I go check the reviews. And yeah, I will most likely buy to the store that have more reviews, or that, and not only just reviews, but people are saying good about the product. So
Yeah.
it influences me buying or choosing that business over another.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I see a couple comments in specifically about Amazon or about products, and I think we're all in that mindset where we look at reviews to see, oh, is this any good? And yeah, and somebody put in there the AI recap is something that they look at. So yeah, critical on finding where to buy things. Yeah. So all those, I think the research here, to me, it suggests that most consumers, before even contacting the business, they're looking for proof of trust. They're trying to find that company that they can trust. And they're seeking validation from those other customers that the company has serviced. And yeah, that's what we term as I've already used the term social proof, but that's what it's referring to, is they're looking for other customers' experience. So let's take a few examples of some reviews. And I'm going to just give you a little scenario. So imagine that your heating and air conditioning system went out. Okay. And you're looking around and you go ahead and search for, AC company near, or AC repair near me. And then you land on the Google business section of that. And this is what you're presented with. You have two professional companies, and the thing is who would you call first? If I put that question out there of who would you call first and why? Why would you call that? You do B? Okay. So, yep. Blocker heating and cooling. It seems like it's the one that I would probably try first before the other one. That's nothing against preferred HVAC services. It's just I feel like already I know a little bit more about that blocker, and there, you know, there's others that have told me, hey, these guys are good. And here's another example. Same thing. In this case, you have a company that has just a few reviews that are good, but then you have another one that's like over 200 reviews. And now the one with a few reviews only has 5 stars, and then the one with 227 has a whole lot more, but they only have 4.8 stars. Okay. So even in this case, who would you call first? Who would you give that kind of first right of refusal to? Okay. And we'll talk a little bit more about the nuances of this as we go on. And yeah, we'll see. The one that even has the least, even more, okay, such as hours. And yeah, so there's more to it than just the reviews themselves. The Google profile tends to be, you know, more built out on those that have more reviews. Okay. All right. So let's look at let's see, and we've talked a little bit about how these reviews can affect your business. But this is where it gets a little bit interesting and challenging, because most of the time as a business, there's like 3 obstacles that you have when you're in the pursuit of improving that online reputation. So the first obstacle is limited social proof. Even though you have that good service, you just don't have enough reviews in order to build the trust with that potential customer. And we can see how having those high reviews, how that matters. Okay. Second, is a business is wasting precious time by manually collecting those reviews, and they create individual emails. Maybe they're, making phone calls or asking people after a visit, and they're just hoping that the customer will remember to leave that review. The third is the online reputation is skewed. We've already kind of talked a little bit about this, where maybe they have a few negative reviews that are drowning out the positive ones, and maybe they just don't have enough reviews to paint an accurate picture of what the company is all about. And these challenges, they all create what's called that trust gap, which is a gap of understanding about your company that's between that customer and potentially contacting you and doing business. And that can all lead to wasted time, damaged reputation, and those things can happen on a consistent day-to-day basis as long as that trust gap is in place. All right. So we're going to cover 3 major mistakes that businesses make when they're working to remove this trust gap, because they want those customers to know and understand the details of their business, how they do business, and they're going to try to overcome that gap. And so we'll talk about those major mistakes. The first one that I want to go over is the quantity trap. Okay. And, as I mentioned a moment ago, you don't have enough social proof. So the idea is, well, let's just go out and get a whole bunch of reviews any way that we can. I mean, right? Doesn't that sound like a good plan? So I'll put that out there. Maybe some of you guys have been approached in the past. Have you ever had a company call you up and say, hey, we'll get you reviews, where you can purchase or buy paid reviews? And when we were talking about Amazon earlier, I mean, I see that all the time, where I see those paid reviews, or it's like they've been compensated with a product. And yeah, so you do see in certain areas, people will go out and try to do that. But that is a trap because it's not about the quantity. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So I'm going to give you a little scenario. Imagine you got a business owner and you're talking to this business owner and he's saying, hey, you know what? I got 100 different reviews. And that sounds pretty impressive on the upfront. But then you're like, okay, well, let me check this guy out. And then you go and you look at those reviews and you find that most of them are just the little generic 5 stars or, you know, that sort of thing. And maybe they don't have any text, or maybe they've even been placed within the same week. You look at that, and or maybe they're, all super old where they were done 10 years ago or something like that, and he doesn't have any, current ones. So what does that make you think? I mean, what is your impression of that company? Any ideas? That they're fake? Yeah, potentially that the reviews themselves are fake or they don't give credibility. Yeah. So if I was looking at this example here and, just seeing a bunch of 5-star reviews that are done 6 years ago, I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's good. But let's say I have one like this. What's the major difference? Yeah, we could see that, hey, there's some detailed experience of the customer there. You can see a response that they've happened. And I look at this and I'm like, this is hard to fake. That's not something that, you know, somebody's gonna go through. I can tell that that is, a genuine review. Okay. So here's the symptoms that you need to look for if you're trying to diagnose, am I in the quantity trap? You're spending that time and energy to get as many reviews as possible. You're asking all of your customers to leave you a quick rating. And, you figure the more reviews equals the better reputation, but yet you still don't have a good conversion rate. Okay. So I'm going to define the term conversion rate. Just so that we're all on the same page. When I say conversion rate, that means the people that see your reviews or look at your profile and presence, and then ultimately they end up reaching out to you and contacting you. That would be considered a conversion. So having a low conversion rate, you may have a lot of different reviews, but you still don't have a high number of people that are seeing those that are then in turn contacting you. And we've already kind of talked about it, but why is that? Why wouldn't they contact you? And we've have it in here. Maybe it's fake. Maybe they don't think that it's a credible source. And the bottom line is generic reviews, they don't build trust. They don't tell you a story, and they don't convince a potential customer to choose you. So there was another statistic that I had looked up that I didn't share in the previous slide, and it says 68% of consumers form an opinion after reading 1 to 6 reviews. And in thinking about that number, 68%, form an opinion after reading reviews. Well, if there's not any information in those reviews, then they don't even have enough info to form an educated opinion about your business. So those high review counts, they may look, impressive when you first look at them, but, they just don't have the substance. And even sometimes it can actually harm credibility, where people look at that and they say, yeah, I don't necessarily want to go with that because there's not substance behind it. And that's especially true when you're talking about professional service businesses and, specialty businesses. Okay. Well, let's talk about the next mistake that
Oh,
people
Stephen,
get. Yeah.
before you
Yeah.
go to the second one, let's circle back to you mentioned about some people or some companies are even offering, we can generate lots of reviews for you. You just have to pay us this an amount of money.
Yeah.
And that can be a simple, let's say, fix to that issue of not having review. But we also want to give this word out that Google is becoming more strict with that. They can penalize the company for doing so or the business for doing so, and worse, your listing could even be removed.
Yeah.
So that will hurt SEO. That will hurt, your ranking in that
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot of consequences that are enacted more than just the customer saying, oh, you know what, that looks a little bit fake or what have you. And yeah, for sure. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Let's talk about the second major mistake. And we're going to call this the reactive approach. Okay. And so this one's pretty common, but it can be pretty devastating to a business. And I'm going to, paint you a little picture again. So you have a business owner who only pays attention to their online reviews or reputation when they receive a negative review. And then they're scrambling around to try to respond to that. And oftentimes they do so emotionally because they're the ones that are vested in the business. And then after they handle that situation, they really don't take any action about their reputation until the next crisis. And let me say, does that sound familiar? Does that sound like something that, you know, has you guys have experienced before? So, and the we already stated you guys are busy business owners, managers. I mean, you're running a business, and so oftentimes you don't even we don't deal with things unless there's a fire burning right in front of us. So, but that does get us caught in that reactive approach. And so the symptoms of that is, once again, you're only checking your reviews when you get a notification, and you only respond to reviews inconsistently, or maybe you don't even respond at all. And there's no systematic approach to collecting feedback of any sort, even like preliminary feedback. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a minute. Okay. So the reactive approach, the biggest thing is it leaves you vulnerable because suddenly when a negative review, when that appears, you're in crisis mode and you're trying to perform damage control instead of having that solid foundation of positive reviews that balance things out. And the reactive approach is not only a constant cycle of crisis management, it never allows you to control that narrative about your brand because you're always playing defense and never getting ahead. Now, I do want to say that negative reviews, they are going to happen. I mean, it's just a fact of doing business, but that doesn't mean it's the end of the world. And I'm going to pose a question here of when you receive a negative review, should you respond to it or should you just let it go? You have respond. Okay. Always respond. So why? Why always respond? And by the way, that is the right answer. No hiding in the closet. Okay. Kill them with kindness. Okay, that's a good approach. All right. So the reason we want to respond is because it's giving us the ability to control things. All right. So when you respond right away, it can lead to other potential customers seeing how you react to things. So they can see your customer service firsthand. They can see the tone, the culture of your business, and what type of business that you are. And you can set the record straight and you don't allow that negative messaging to control the narrative of how other people see your businesses. So it's really important to respond, because once again, you're setting that tone and it gives that customer insight into, or future customers insight into how you do business. Now, obviously, I'm not condoning, hey, let's go ahead and get some negative reviews so we can respond, and see how your company handles that. But with that being said, once again, they're going to happen. But what if you could kind of mitigate that from happening in the first place? What if we could take away those negative response opportunities and give them a way to respond constructively instead of destructively? And that's the good news, is we will be talking about a method of how to do that here in a few moments, on giving them an avenue or an outlet. Okay. But first, we're going to go into that final mistake and we'll talk about that. And this one here is called the silent majority trap. All right. And this one's perhaps the most frustrating situation that you can deal with as a business owner. Okay. So just like before, I'm going to give you a little scenario. All right. You've been in business for a long time. You've delivered, excellent service to, you know, thousands of happy customers, right? And let's say that out of 100 customers, you have 98 that are happy, 2 that aren't happy. And your Google My Business account, currently, you look at that and you got 3 reviews, and 2 of them are negative, but 1 of them is positive. And you think, why is that? I mean, why is it that I can have 100 people that, I service, 98% are happy. You got 2 that are unhappy, but yet I got 2/3 of my reviews that are negative. Okay. So we have a perfect example of why that takes place. We have an iceberg here in the picture. And the thing with an iceberg, or the way that icebergs work, is you have 10% of the iceberg that's showing on top, where 90% of the iceberg is underwater. Okay. And that illustrates perfectly what we're trying to talk about here, because just like an iceberg, 90% of your customers are silent when it comes to leaving their experience or sharing their experience or even giving you feedback on your business. And once again, I'm going to go over a few symptoms of this is how you know you're in the silent majority trap. One, you got happy customers that they may even thank you in person. They may be like, man, you did such a great job. I love your business. And they may even send you like a text message or something, send you a personal message saying, man, you're doing a good job. They even may recommend their friends. But the thing is they never really do any of this in public, or they don't leave a lasting impression. Okay. If that sounds familiar, then you're probably firmly in the grasp of that silent majority trap. So, all right. So let's think about things from a customer perspective. All right. Because we're all customers of some sort. And I want to ask the question, when's the last time you guys left an unsolicited review, a positive review about a company, without anybody asking, anybody saying anything? You just went ahead and were like, yep, I'm going to leave that good review. Months ago, I would say that's probably pretty generous. Okay. So got some people that do that for small companies. All right. Well, that's the same mindset that your average consumer is in, is they don't generally take the opportunity to do that. And the reality is unhappy customers are highly motivated to share their experience online, where happy customers, they rarely think about it unless they're prompted. So I'm going to ask the question of, why do you think that is? Why do you think unhappy customers, are motivated where your happy customers aren't? Okay. I think if I had to simply state it, is those people, yep, they want to be heard. They want and they want that business to know what went wrong and to at least acknowledge that, hey, this is what happened. Yep, they want to vent. All right. And then what's the result of being caught in this silent majority trap? Any thoughts? We've already mentioned it before. So it skews the online perception of the way that others view your business. That's going to be the major result of being in that trap, because they're going to see, oh, well, he's got some negative reviews, maybe he's got a few positive, and that's not going to be the way that it actually represents the way you do business. Okay. So we've laid out the most common challenges and mistakes here, and I'll put it out there real quick. If there's others that you guys can think of, then we can discuss those in a few minutes. But yeah, otherwise we can move on.
Okay, I'm excited to hear the solutions to
Okay.
these problems. But before that, let me do my role as the host to to help everybody kind of like have a quick recap of the things that have been discussed so far. So first of all, thank you for showing those powerful statistics that allow us to really understand how important reviews are in business, because sometimes you don't really think about it. Business owners have a lot of things to work on, to juggle, and reviews might probably not be a priority. But as we have seen, it really influences customer trust and even your next sale. And Stephen covered the three mistakes. So just very quickly, number one is the quantity trap. So that means, we want to collect a large number of reviews that don't have substance, but that fails to build trust with customers and might have consequences as well. The second one is the reactive approach, where we just respond to reviews when there's negative reviews that we see in our pages or in our profiles, which can also it's kind of like damage control. Again, we're busy. Sometimes, we don't really respond to the positive ones. But when we see something's negative, oh, I have to respond to that. Okay. And then the third is the silent majority that Stephen just covered, failing to encourage those who are satisfied with your business, and mostly those that are unsatisfied. There's someone in the chat that says they want revenge. That's why they give negative reviews. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and another thing is probably the people are just busy with their lives. Even though they are happy, they don't just get the time, or they forget. Oh, I'm going to give you a good review. And then life happens and they forgot to leave you a good review. Okay.
Yeah.
So what, now let's see how can we address these problems? Back to you,
Well, let's
Stephen.
jump into it. Let's first talk about the quality first. So quality first is going to be the solution when it comes to quality over quantity problem, or quantity over quality, however you want to put it. So we're going to talk about that. And let's recap just real quick, where the most important thing for potential clients is authenticity. That's what they're looking for in reviews. It's not just numbers. So the question would then be, when is the best time in order to reach out for a review that you think you're going to get a positive answer to? When is that best time? Go ahead and put it in the chat. After service. Okay. Got right away. There's a lot of different times, immediately afterwards. There's a lot of different times, and you know, the there's an old saying for retail locations where it's like your retail business, it's location, location, location. Well, it's the same thing when we're talking about reviews. It's about timing, timing, timing. And the best time in order to reach out is after you've had that experience with them that you think was a good experience that is most likely going to be positive. Okay. So, um, here's how some here's some suggestions on how we can capitalize on that right timing for asking a review. All right. And I think this is more of an internal thing for your company, but identify whatever that situation looks like for your company, and then put together a standard operating procedure or customer service procedure of saying that, yep, this is the time that we think it's going to be most valuable to reach out for that review, and then go ahead and implement that ask. All right. And so for this situation, we're going to show you one of the tools, and yep, I've got my background on. One of the tools that Review Llama uses in order to facilitate this, and it's called a tap to review card. All right. So this tap to review card is going to be, well, yeah. Let me go over a few things first, and then I'll just show you the little video on how it works. Okay. So this, all right. Give me just a second here. So
Okay.
our tap to review card, this has a couple things on it. It's got a QR code and it's got an NFC chip, which an NFC is like near field communication or something like that. But basically when you tap it on the phone, what it does is it opens up a portal for them to be able to leave a review and capture, that customer's genuine sentiments. All right. Now, if you're not an in-person business where you're actually able to use a card where you're interacting with the customer, if that's not part of your business plan, then Review Llama has a feedback request that can be sent via text or email. And so that's going to usually be designated at whatever time you previously, identified. And all you need in order to do that is a customer's name, email address, or text-enabled phone number. All right. And then these things can be set up to happen automatically when they're triggered within the software to be able to send. So, and let me go over the review card just to elaborate a little bit more on how this thing works. So when you first get a review card, you register the review card. And what that means is it's going to specifically connect your Google profile of your business up to the card itself. And then every time after it's tapped on a phone or scanned, it's going to open up that link that goes right over to your Google profile. And then, as long as the customer's logged in, they'll be able to leave the review right there. So let's give you a preview of what that looks like.
Cool.
Like
Okay,
this.
let's see.
So as I mentioned, you're just going to tap it on there. It's going to open up the website. In this case, we need to log into Google, and there it is. You're able to then leave your 5-star review and put on there, whatever it is that's on your mind at the moment. So you can see where a service-based business that can be a very powerful asset after you are done with a service call or something like that. So imagine that heating and air conditioning company, after they're done with the service call, they can say, hey, can I tap that on your phone? And just that quick, and they can be up and running as far as a review is concerned. Okay. So the other critical thing about this asking for review is the reminders. All right. Now, as Diana mentioned, I have 5 kids. All right. And I'm pretty sure that if I ask them to do something, even if it's something that they don't mind doing, they're generally not going to get it done unless I have to go in and remind them several times. So having more than one request isn't a bad thing. And Review Llama has that covered with the ability to then send out those follow-up emails and text messages. And that's all set so that you can get those high quality reviews to be left. Okay. And the best part is that follow-up sequence and stuff, that all happens automatically without you having to manually be involved in each one of those steps. All right. So now let's talk about how to create a proactive system instead of a reactive system. All right. And one of the key things about being proactive is we already talked about like getting in-person or digital reviews, right? So we want to be able to see and have visibility of what's going on as far as those review requests are concerned. And so that's going to be a key component to this. All right. Let's pull up the little picture here so you can see what's going on. So there's so visibility, there's several places where you can see where these email or text message requests go out. And some of that, sometimes you can see that, or you'll be able to see that in the contact record. You'll be able to see that in the reputation section under requests, and you'll be able to see it in the conversations tab. And so in addition to being able to see where those review requests were made, you'll also be able to see, oh, this is who left, reviews. And you can see here, this is this is actually a screenshot of the conversations area where you're able to say, oh, okay, well, Jennifer, she left a review. And it doesn't show you the verbiage in this particular view, but as soon as you click on it, it takes you right over so you can see, the full review. So visibility is key to being proactive. And Review Llama contains this universal inbox. And so it's not just for review messages. It can be set up for, SMS messages, email, WhatsApp, web chat, social media, DMs, all sorts of things can come into this universal inbox and give you that clarity and visibility of what's going on with your business. The other key thing about that, or kind of cool thing, is it can all be done on your phone. So as far as your phone is concerned, you do have an app that Review Llama has that you're able to see all of those things on your mobile device as well. Okay. So the other thing that Review Llama's, the system, what it does is it utilizes AI to create a personalized response to each one of these reviews. All right. So the AI technology, what it will do is it will read the review, it will create that customized response, and either you approve it with just one click, or you let the system post it automatically, and that'll go right over to your Google profile and be able to answer those questions or answer that what that customer has. Okay. The last thing here, all right. And this is kind of the capstone of communication, automation, visibility, and so forth, is we want our customers to be able to see this, the past customers as well as potential new customers. So in being proactive, we want to be able to share with our audience, this is what's happening with our business. And Review Llama has the ability to automatically post these social or these good reviews over to social, and just creates that without you having to do anything. And it's also, there is a widget that can go on your website that will then you'll be able to see these are all the reviews that have happened in the past however long. And this widget is all customizable. So all in all, the system, it's set up to monitor your review status and keep track of all of that, giving you clear visibility and giving you the alerts as those things happened. And it's meant so that you're not scrambling to catch up or, feeling like, hey, I'm not on top of my reputation. All right. let's go into the last solution here, and it's about engaging the happy customer. So we're trying to address that silent majority trap. All right. And the most crucial element to customer interactions is actually engaging your satisfied clients and not just responding to the noisy minority. All right. So we've already talked about how we can ask every customer. These review requests can be made with that card, or they can be made, through those emails and text messages. The outreach itself works great, but the process alone doesn't account for identifying who that silent majority is. All right. So we haven't been able to tell, well, who's happy and who's not. All right. So what do we do about the ones that, had a less than desirable experience, because we don't necessarily want to promote them to leave a review. So this is how we can handle that situation. So Review Llama, it's set up to where you're first taken to a place where you can identify this is what's going on with the client. So we want to encourage in all of our situations this idea of praising in public and giving feedback in private. All right. So this type of page is where the customer would initially be sent. So remember before how I said, hey, the card is connected to your Google profile. When you have the full system, it can be connected to this instead. And this is what we recommend doing, is having it connected to the landing page so that they can go through the process. And once they go through this process, there's really two paths that they can go down. And the first path is where they had a positive experience, and we can show you what that looks like here. Is when they've had a positive experience, let's say they clicked on one of those two smiley faces in the beginning, then it's going to take them to a page like this, and they're going to be able to then go and leave their review. All right. And we'll give you just a brief video on what that looks like as far as the process goes. Okay. So as I mentioned, you're going to come to this page and you're going to see, oh, okay, yeah, I did have an extremely happy experience. And then from there, they're going to be sent to a thank you page. This can all be customized. And then they're going to have the options. In this case, we have 3 options. And once they choose one of those options, then it takes them right over to be able to leave that review. All right. And by the way, you did notice that there was Facebook, there was Yelp. There's a lot of different things on there that can be put on there as far as review channels. All right. I am recommending that we focus on Google first, because Google does have quite a few benefits to increasing the number of reviews on there before you start reaching out to others. And yes, to answer one of the questions in there, is there got a few questions that came in of, does it have thumbs up, thumbs down? So there is the ability to put a scale in like that to say, hey, I had a good experience or a bad experience, and it just takes them to the one of the paths. And yes, you can put on there multiple options for them to choose. Or you could have multiple ones where you send out one that is in regards to Google. You can send out another one later that's in regards to Facebook or to Yelp or to Zillow or to, any of the other sites that are available to put on. Okay. But once again, I'm going to circle back. I'm recommending Google first because of this reason right here. Is it really can have a positive impact on your local search engine optimization and the results of you showing up higher in those listings. Okay. And this is a statement right off of Google's website. And you can see there where it talks about positive reviews, that they can improve your business's likelihood of being found. Okay. And I'm gonna throw out a little challenge to you guys. So try it. Try it with your service industry or any service industry or anything like that. Try it in general of typing in and saying, I don't know, local plumber or lawn care or whatever, and see in the results that show up in the Google Business Profile section, the ones that will show up are most likely going to have a lot of positive reviews. Okay. And then it's not to say that the other ones won't show up at all, but the more than likely, the ones that show up first and get the first right of refusal are the ones that have quite a few. Okay. So that's a little experiment you can do. All right. Now we have a secondary path. We have the path
Oh,
of what
sorry.
happened. Yep.
Before we go to that, so can we go back to the previous slide, which is actually related to one of the questions earlier, so we don't have to go back to this anymore. There's this question when you talked about mistake number one about Google, sorry, about buying reviews in general. So there's a question about, does Google algorithm also look for that stuff when it comes to SEO? And I think that statement alone is an answer to that. That yes,
Yeah,
Google checks, and Google is becoming more sophisticated with their system to detect these kinds of things. So probably there's also kind of like, probably they can also detect, sudden spike in the reviews. Uh, yeah. So that this is a related answer to one of those questions. So we won't
for
have to
sure.
go back to that
Yep.
later. Okay.
And the words that they're using, high quality, positive reviews, in improving your business's visibility. And in the world of Google, visibility means being found. Yep. So that's a good point. All right. So let's talk about those customers that maybe they didn't have the greatest experience with you. And what does that look like? Well, that's going to take them to a different page that looks similar to this. And it's going to give them the ability to fill out a form. And once they filled out the form, that form is going to come back to you, be submitted just to you. And it's going to come back in a manner that doesn't go out to the public. And you can take that feedback and use it internally. All right. So we'll just show that process kind of live here of what that looks like when we go down the other path. And once again, in this case, it's set up to be, could be happier, unhappy, and extremely unhappy. Any one of those responses would lead to this form that they can fill out. Once the form has been filled out, once again, it gets submitted directly back to you for your review. Okay. All right. All right. So in essence, what this does, what this funnel does, is it gives you the ability to reach out to every one of your customers without the fear of negative feedback from those unsatisfied customers kind of going public, as well as it gives you valuable feedback to see what went wrong for those situations where you have a customer that's, not quite happy. And it gives you that opportunity through that feedback to make your process as a business even better. So we can solve problems, internal problems and things like that that are happening with our company through our, customers' information of what they're giving us. Okay. Um, and by implementing that simple, systematic way to encourage feedback, your satisfied customers, they're going to gladly share their thoughts. And that's going to create a flood of those positive reviews that are going to showcase that excellent service that your company provides. All right. And the key in all of this is making it easy for those customers to do so and giving them that gentle reminder and an effortless way for them to be able to do that. All right.
Okay, so I'm just looking at the time. We're already kind of over
Yeah.
time, 3 minutes, but let's give 10 to 15 more minutes, probably less, just to wrap it up, answer a few questions if we have questions from the audience, and Stephen will be closing out.
Yep.
So if you have questions,
Dear,
you can start typing that in the chat box, but I've also taken note of one of the questions earlier. So um, again, in the mistake of having, I think this was in mistake number one, and we talked about fake reviews and stuff like that. So there, what's your take on and sorry, and also you talked about AI responses as a feature of the Review Llama system. So what's your stand on automated replies? Because the person said they seem fake.
okay. Yeah, so automated replies, one of the key things is to make sure we are replying, okay? Customers want to see, potential customers want to see that businesses reply. Once again, it gives them insight and things like that. The AI replies are actually really good. There is ways that you can customize that. And as I mentioned before, if you're afraid of it coming across in any manner as a, non-genuine reply, it'll give you a suggestion, and then you can modify that and then press send. So if you want a notification of, hey, I got a review, and the Review Llama system can then notify you to go in, check the pre-made reply, and then you modify it accordingly and then just press send. So if you want a little bit more manual process to do that, you can, but with it being more manual, it does come across as more personalized. I think, however, in looking at it, most of the time people will look at those automatic replies and they'll be like, yeah, that's pretty good. You know, that's not too bad, and they'll keep doing that. So you can label it
Yeah.
as automated.
People are
You
enjoying
know.
interacting in the chat box. Thank you so
Oh,
much for your participation. Let's wait for a few more seconds just in case there will be questions that come in.
so there is, we can get a couple more questions that have come up, and they can message the host, but I do have a couple more questions in here, and it's talking about, do I have to log into Google in order to manage reviews? And the simple answer to that is no. Those reviews come directly into Review Llama, and you're able to, manage that. I had a question here of, let's see, do I have to set all this up? And the simple answer is no. When you're going through your onboarding process and that sort of thing, or when you're filling out the information to get signed up, Review Llama takes care of that onboarding and sets up those automations for you. Got another one. So does it guarantee no bad reviews? No, there's not a guarantee of no bad reviews. The system that we just talked about, it does mitigate that, and that's probably the best word, because you are reaching out to each one of your customers if you're following the full system. And in doing so, you're giving them the opportunity to give you that feedback. If they want, you or they can go through the process and actually leave a review. If you don't give them the avenue to be able to do so, it's called review gating. And if you are review gating, there can be potential consequences that Google or Facebook or others enact upon your account, because you're not allowing people to give you those bad reviews through your outreach process. So that does have to be part of it, but it's definitely low lighted, and bad reviews still can come through. But as I mentioned, bad reviews are going to happen, and we've already talked about the appropriate ways to handle those. Okay. Um, yeah, and then one other one, what can I do about negative reviews that I may already have, or that I already have? Basically, the best way to deal with negative reviews is to bury them with an avalanche of good ones. And that's probably the best way to put it. You can, if it's totally unfounded, there are measures that you can take with the platform, depending on which platform that review happened on, but there are measures you can take to dispute certain reviews and say that, hey, this is totally unfounded, and go through that process. But by and large, if it was just an unhappy customer, is making sure you have a positive reply to them and then burying it with a bunch of good ones. Because people understand you can't please everybody. So, and then I got one here. What is your software best used for? What industry? It's really good in just about every industry. I'd say the ones that can utilize those in-person interactions, it does really well in that area, because you do have that in-person interaction and you can get that review right then when you're standing in front of them. And the chances of them leaving you a positive review when you're standing in front of them is probably pretty high. So I'd say any of those in-person industries, most likely that's a service industry of some sort. So, all right. So let me back up here. I'm gonna go down just this idea that you really got two paths. So we got some choices to make. You may have felt a sense of urgency. That's why you showed up today. You may feel stuck. Maybe that's why you showed up. But in reality, you got two options. You can kind of disregard the things that we discussed and not make a plan, to move forward, not have that systematic approach. And then probably, in a year's period of time, you'll be in that same situation. Or you can commit to improve that overall process. You can, take those satisfied customers, turn them into those vocal advocates. You can implement, a process of tap to review cards or some in-person communications so that you can just grow your online reputation. And the choices to do that is up to you. And just be aware that, competitors that are out there, they may be taking those actions. So, yep, that's just something to be aware of. But this does take us to our bonus. It's time to reveal what is this
Wait,
bonus, or what
sorry,
is this?
Steven. There's one more. Can we
Oh,
tie a tip path into the review? Just came
can,
in.
can we tie a tip path into the review? I'm not sure what you mean by a tip path, whether there is something that they can leave, like
Tip.
information as far as a tip, or a monetary tip.
Tipping.
Okay. So there may be a way, yep, money. All right. So there may be a way in order to do something like that. I would have to look at, there are some other automations, but when you start to get into payments and that sort of thing, that requires, remember how I said that Review Llama is part of Growth Genie 360? Growth Genie 360 has a lot more of those features and functions. So there is the ability to take money and do things like that, and have, yeah, for people to be able to make payments, tips, and so forth. So I believe that there could be a way in order to make that happen, but that would be most likely in the upgraded version of the software. Okay. All right. So let's get to the bonus. All right. So Review Llama. You need to go to reviewllama.com/webinar offer. All right. The Review Llama value is $197 a month. It's currently on a promotional discount of $97 a month. But because of this webinar that we're holding, basically during the day of the webinar, you are able to access that. Your first 2 months are $10 a month. Okay. So basically for 60 days, you have $20 worth of an investment there. You also get 3 of the review cards as a bonus. So if you're doing those in-person interactions, that's an excellent bonus to have, because you can attach all three of those review cards to your business and then send them out with your, technicians. If you're a service company, you can put it on the front counter of your cafe. You can have it, in a lanyard. If you're an escape room, there's all sorts of ways that you can have those in-person interactions. So you get three of those cards that come with that as, a free bonus. And yeah, that is the promotional discount that we're putting together. We have not done anything like this. And so I encourage you, if you're ready to transform that review process, transform your online reputation, then please take advantage of that. And that will make a huge difference in your business. Was there any other questions or things that anybody has that we can go over?
There's none. No more questions that came in. Oh, there's one. Is there a contract?
Is there a contract? Yep. No, there is not a contract. It's a month-to-month agreement with Review Llama. Yep. So
Okay,
awesome.
okay.
Well,
So awesome. Awesome, awesome. So if there are no more questions, once again, we appreciate your time joining us here in our webinar. So let me just wrap it up and then we close. Okay, so we've covered a lot today, exploring how authentic reviews drive trust and growth. Stephen also covered the common mistakes businesses make when it comes to reviews, review management, online reputation, and of course, show us a system how Review Llama provides a simple automated solution to turn happy customers into powerful marketing assets. So remember, quality reviews that reflect your true value and a proactive system to gather and showcase them are key. So now we have this one choice, or you have this choice: stick with the status quo or embrace the system. So I'm promoting Review Llama now, right? Embrace the system or embrace Review Llama as the tool for your review management system. Thank you, everybody. We will
and
be sending
we
out.
did have
Okay.
one question there about reaching out. If there's questions,
Yeah.
if you guys have any questions about what it is that was covered or the system in general, then just go to reviewllama.com and you can schedule an appointment. And yeah, you can get a meeting in order to answer those questions. Yep.
Yes, and we will be actually sending out post-webinar emails as a wrap-up of what has been discussed, and also share the recording of this session. Okay, so you can respond to that if you receive that email as well.
Okay. Awesome.
Okay, awesome,
Guys.
awesome. Thank you, everybody, for
Yeah.
being with us. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.